I think a lot of LGBTQ plus folks deal with some religious trauma, and if lots of folks grow up in homes that are maybe not affirming specifically because of religious beliefs. And so I wanted to kind of show that it was possible to bring your gender identity and your faith together and not have to pick one or the other, because so many LGBTQ plus youth and gender diverse youth are put in this position where it's like you can either choose to be you, or you can choose to, have your faith in your religious community. And there are lots of folks out there that have found ways to bring those things together, and I wanted to make that more visible for people. I mean, there are always hard points. There are always people that want to push back, and there are always people that say, you can't do this or you're doing it wrong. But in general, the number of people that I have met that I've been able to talk to has just been incredible. And I think there's a common misconception in media right now that trans people are either like binary trans men or binary trans women, because that's who we're seeing. Like, we don't have very many examples of folks who are non-binary or outside of just the trans male or trans female sort of experience. And for me, one of the things that I have learned most is that is the portion of the trans community that is, that maybe needs the most from binary trans folks like myself right now. I went and led a retreat for gender diverse people at a faith conference about 6 months ago, and as I was formulating the whole thing, I kind of had people like me in mind, and I got there and half of the people that came were non-binary, and we're kind of like, where's our stuff? Where are the resources that speak specifically not to just trans needs but to non-binary needs? And so that to me was a really eye-opening moment where I was like, oh yeah, of course. The two core messages that I try to put out there for folks is one, that you're not alone in whatever it is you're going through, and two, that you are loved just the way you are, and that it's not like God or a higher power, whatever your particular tradition has. It's not like they're loving you in spite of who you are, they're loving you because of who you are. And we want to make sure that the work that Gender Spectrum does is inclusive of people of all faith backgrounds, and so that's been really great for me because I get to learn as well. I get to talk with folks from Jewish and Muslim and Buddhist backgrounds, and talk to people about how they understand their faith and their gender in that context. Part of what we want to do with the Gender Spectrum Faith program now is, one, create discussion groups for parents and for youth to be able to talk about their faith experiences and how they're bringing this stuff together. And two, create resources for people, educational resources like here's where you go if you want to find a welcoming faith community, things like that. And also educational resources about what's going on out there in the world right now. Because there are lots of gender diverse kids that I've met who've said things like, I'd really like to be a pastor someday, and I want them to know that they can do that. So one of the youth that I got to talk to recently was talking about how they would maybe like to be a faith leader someday, and they would maybe like to go to seminary, and so, but they're coming from a background of not having any sort of affirming role models in that way, and so we got to talking about the people that are out there doing really cool things right now that are trans, that are non-binary, and also talking about how we can understand our theology in a positive way in our own life, even if people around us maybe don't hold to that same set of beliefs. And it was really made me feel so hopeful to watch them go through this process, because even though they're facing some folks in their life that are very non-affirming and really are not sort of on board with who they are as a person, they still wanted to find a way to be part of this faith community. And we always want to be careful about drawing good lines and good boundaries to protect ourselves when we need to be protected, but there's also something to be said for the courage that it takes for somebody to say, you know what, I know you don't get it, but I'm gonna stay here and help you understand and let you walk with me on this journey. And I have such respect for folks that do that, and it's really cool to see it in youth. If this 13-year-old can do it, I can keep doing it.